Okay, we're back in the kitchen with Kaitis Cooks. It's a good one today. We're traveling to Germany once again. We've been doing some German recipes this week, and that's what we're working on today. Remember yesterday we made some sauerkraut, or we started our fermentation process. So like I told you, we're gonna open this up, we're gonna stir it around a bit, and we're going to tamp it down to make sure that all the liquid's over the sauerkraut. So I first want to pull out these larger pieces that we're using to hold it down. Perfect. It's starting to smell. That's what we want. Let's see. I'm tilting it, and you can see there's water here. So their water's come up to about 3/4, which is kind of what we want. And that's why we're going to tamp it down a bit today. We want to make sure that we push it down and all that water is covering the sauerkraut. All right, the reason I'm taking it out is, remember yesterday I mentioned caraway seeds and I forgot to put them in there. So today, oh there. So what happens is it really smells really bad. You're gonna think, oh, whew, that smells bad, but that's a good smell. That's what we want. So that means the fermentation's happening. And so when you store this, when it's in the jar and it's fermenting with the cheesecloth on top and the odors can come out, you want to have it in a place that there's some ventilation, because if you don't have ventilation, it's going to make your whole house smell like sauerkraut that's fermenting. So that's about a tablespoon of caraway seeds. I'm going to sprinkle those on there, and I love those. My middle daughter, Nico, hates caraway seeds, but she loves bagels, and she loves the everything bagels that have all these different seeds. And it's so funny to watch her, because in the morning she'll come down to get her bagel, and she literally picks them off. Oh, she stands over the trash can. I didn't know what she was doing one day, and she said, I just don't like these ones. I said, well, those are caraway, they're so good. So it's really kind of fun to watch her. So I only buy those kind of bagels because it kind of drives her crazy having to pick those off. But it's one of those nice moments I'll always cherish with my daughters, those cool little things they do. Okay, so there we go. See, those caraway seeds are all mixed all the way through, looking really good. You can look now, I'll tilt it, and look at all that liquid that's come out. There's a bunch of liquid right there. The leaves are all covered with liquid, and so it's ready to go. Let's see, I did bring my, I brought it. I brought my little funnel over, but maybe I misplaced things so fast, it's ridiculous. So we're just gonna put this right back into the jar now, and then we will put those larger leaves on top of it, and then we'll tamp it down. So we really want to cover all this with liquid. If there's not enough liquid by the end of today, I think I might add a tiny bit of water to it. I don't want to add a lot of water to it. We want it to be as natural as possible. Okay, and I will actually taste it to see how we're coming along. But it's starting to get that wonderful fermentation smell, so I know that what we're trying to do is working. Okay, now you see what a great look. All those caraway seeds, all of that cabbage in there, just waiting to be converted into delicious sauerkraut. Okay, let's see, I'll pull that off. Yeah, it's already souring up. That's perfect. I can taste the salt we put on it yesterday, which we want. We didn't oversalt it. Okay, good. See, we're really tamping it down, and that's going to ensure that the liquid in there will cover all of that cabbage. Before we call it cabbage until we can officially call it sauerkraut here in about 4 or 5 days. It hasn't earned the rank of sauerkraut, so it's still cabbage. Yeah, you're still cabbaged, boy. All right, so back goes the lid. That smell, it's so good, and yet it's so bad. Isn't that cool? Something can be so good, yet so bad. All right, it smells so bad. All right, so we remember how this is a piece of plastic wrap from your kitchen plastic wrap. We don't tie it really tight. We just do it one time so we can check it from day to day. All right. We made one yesterday in the afternoon class, And I added some caraway seeds. I did the exact same thing. I forgot to add them, so I threw some in and stirred it around. But those will be put back over here. We'll keep them at room temperature. And they'll be at room temperature here for over the weekend. Well, we have a 4-day weekend, so they're really going to be able to sit nicely. Okay, so while we have that going, next thing we're going to work on is our pork schnitzel. Remember, it's our German extravaganza. So what I did, I bought some, you can do different types of pork. You could do pork chops if you wanted to. Here we got a pork loin. Don't confuse pork loin with pork tenderloin. They're two completely different pieces of meat. I didn't know that years ago, and I ordered for a party. I thought pork loin was always like this, and I told my salesperson, I said, I need pork tenderloin. And so I got all these little pieces, and it's like that. It's a really incredibly tasty piece of meat, but I obviously didn't have enough for the party I was ordering for. Because I'd said, well, I figured out how many pieces I could get out of this, and then when they came in, they were this big. I said, uh-oh, big problem, chef. So I scrambled and fixed everything. So pork loin and pork tenderloin, two very different things. All right, so this is in a plastic wrap. I'm gonna take it out. Notice how I have it in a metal container here, and what that will do, that will keep, if there's juices in there, they'll keep the juices from spilling out all over the place. It's a lot easier to work with it this way. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut off some pieces, and we're gonna flatten them out a bit. So what I'll do, I'm not gonna use the whole thing, so I'll just cut off this much. Okay, so there we have one nice piece of pork. This will go back in the refrigerator, and we will move on from there. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is, I'm gonna slice some pieces of this. So I have my smaller knife, but I think my larger knife is gonna work because I can get a longer cut with it, okay? So I'm gonna do maybe about 1/4 of an inch thick. I think that's a good thickness, just like that. If you wanted to, you could remove this fat, but I think it adds some flavor when you're eating it, and it's not bad for the schnitzel, okay? So don't worry if you don't take it off, but if you like to remove fat, then here you go. You got a little project. All right, so there we go. We're gonna get quite a few cuts out of here, and some of them are gonna be larger, some are gonna be smaller. So if you're doing this in a restaurant or something, one customer might get one piece, another customer might end up getting 2 pieces, because what we do, we work on weight, how much something weighs. So we're gonna give about 6 ounces per person. So if you have a table of 4 people and 2 of them order the same thing, always make sure they get the same 1 piece each or 2 pieces each. Because if something comes to the table, on one end it looks like this and the other end it looks like this, you start sowing discord amongst your customers, and you'll have people saying, well, he got more than I did. And it's crazy how people react in restaurants. They get out of hand. All right, next thing I'll do, I'm gonna grab my plastic wrap, which I had nice and ready way over here, which I should have had. Remember, my mise en place should have been over here, so I didn't have that ready. I'm gonna pull this out. So I'm gonna show you couple different ways you can do this. So I'm gonna do this with plastic wrap first. So we put plastic wrap down. I put the piece of meat in there, and then I'll fold this over the top. Next thing I do, I don't have a meat pounder, meat tenderizer thing. So what I use is I use a pan like this, okay? And you're just gonna pound it out, and you just wanna, what you're doing, you're thinning it out. It's gonna cook through a lot quicker this way. All right, so remember, and you could get a smaller pan than this. I was feeling some aggression this morning, so I felt like I needed to get a big pan and take care of business. I was feeling okay though. I was feeling better than okay. I was feeling great. We were having a discussion in the kitchen this morning about feeling great and feeling okay. I was schooled on how I responded to the question this morning. I'm still still a little bent out of shape over it. Not really. It's a fun, spirited discussion. The other way we could do this is we have, what do we call this? A Ziploc bag. I'm going to put one in there. Or sandwich bag, exactly. Maybe I'll put 2 in there, see if we can get 2 done. We don't have to zip it up. We're just going to go in there with this. Pound that out. See how nicely that goes out? So this is about basically the same size. So we've almost doubled the size by pounding it out. So that does a couple things. That's going to make it easier to cook it through, and also it makes it look bigger. So in the eyes of the customer, they're getting a value, right? They're getting a nice big piece of meat. Little do they know what we've done behind the scenes. Whoa! That was my evil laugh. So our next stunt will be this. We're going to coat these. And so Schnitzel will be coated with some breadcrumbs, but we do a 3-part system. We'll do it first in some flour, seasoned flour. The next one will be an egg and milk bath. And then the last thing we'll do a mixture of breadcrumbs and a little flour with some seasonings. We'll bread everything up, and then we'll be ready to fry these. Okay? So I will grab my flour, and I'll grab a cup measure. So for the first one, like I said, it's just going to be for coating the pork. And so what that does is that enables the liquid to soak on really well, and it makes it kind of a sticky substance. And then when you go into the breadcrumb mixture, then it's going to really stick and adhere to the pork. If you don't do this part, everything's going to fall off. It's really interesting how it won't stick on. Maybe we'll even do one with just dipping in the breadcrumbs, and you'll see the disaster that will ensue. Okay, so we want to give a little bit of flavor to the flour here. And so what I'm going to do is add a little bit of salt. You could add, if you do have like seasoning salt, you could put seasoning salt in there. But I like to go old school and do it my own way. So I did salt, did like a tiny shake of some thyme. I have a little bit cumin, so I'll put a shake of cumin. And that's, I mean, really that's like a pinch of each. You don't want to go overboard with those ones. They're great flavors, and that's it. You want a little background flavor of those. You don't want that to be the predominant flavor when you do this. We have some onion powder, which I put about a tablespoon, and maybe a little granulated garlic. Okay, we made this mixture for years in our company in Los Angeles, and all my Latinos, they called it Mexican magic. They thought it was the best thing. We'd put it on everything, and so it had a name. Mexican Magic. And it was really good. I'm going to taste it to see if it has enough adequate amount of salt, and it does. It's perfect. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is our liquid portion. So I'll excuse me. Put about a cup of milk in there. That's some that flour went right to the back of my throat. Silly me. Okay, so I got a cup of milk. I'm putting 2 eggs in there. I'll put the eggs into our compost, and I will come in at it with, I'm coming for you, eggs. I've got a whisk. I'm just going to make sure everything gets whisked in there really well. You could use buttermilk in this also. Buttermilk really gives a nice, really nice flavor to it. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of acidity, and that will give us a faux buttermilk flavor. All right, so now we have our first one, which is flour and seasoning. We have milk and eggs. The last one, we have flour. We're going to add some breadcrumbs. So we have 2 different kinds of breadcrumbs. We have panko, which is a Japanese style. So we're going to use those today. Or you can have regular breadcrumbs, which we have here. And these are ones we make ourselves. We take all of our old bread, we just let it sit out till it's nice and dry, and then we run it through our food processor or something so it grinds up really nice and it keeps for a long time. So if you have extra bread at home, If you use a lot of breadcrumbs, make your own breadcrumbs. It's really easy to do, so simple. It's a great way to use up old bread. Okay, so now we want to, I'm going to throw a little dry parsley in here to give some color, and then we're going to add some seasoning. So I'll basically do kind of the same seasoning I did with that flour. So I'm going to do a little bit of salt, a little bit of thyme, a little bit of cumin. Here we go. A little tiny bit of garlic, onion powder, and last thing we'll do is a little bit of garlic, granulated garlic this is. Perfect. Now what we want to do is make sure we mix that together really well, and we'll do the same thing as we did with the flour. Just take a little taste of it to see if it's correct, and I think the seasoning will be just about right on this. Okay, we're not going to season the meat at all. What the seasoning to me is going to be all in the coatings, okay? So I'm thinking that might need a little more salt since that's what we're going for with our seasoning. Perfect. All right, chef, we're ready to go. So this is the point. If you want to wear gloves, it's going to make it a lot easier. Your hands won't get as dirty. Or if you're doing a lot of these, you do a couple people doing it. So the first person would do this portion. They would coat the meat with the flour, just like that. You lift it up, you shake it a little bit just to get off any extra, and then you lay that into the milk mixture. We'll do a couple of those. We'll actually do all of these. And when you do it, if you do every one individually, if you do dip, 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 your hands are going to get covered with this. So really what you want to do, you really want to work smart with this. So you think, well, what's the way that I'm going to have to not like brush all this breadcrumb off my hand all the time? Well, the way you do it is you do it the way I am right now. So we're going to do this portion first. Okay, we shake that off. And you can put a bunch of slices of meat in here. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do one at a time. You can put 10 if you can get them in there. You can do 20 if you want. It's actually better because I get to soak and really soak up that buttermilky flavor. And then what you're going to do is you'll have a pan ready to go. And this is important because if you don't have that, you won't have anything to put these on. And so you put them on here, and then we'll be able to cook. Okay, so the way we do this, you can do a couple different things. You could take some tongs and lift these out one at a time. And what you want to do is drain them a little bit, just like that. Now you're going to lay them in here one at a time. And you put it in, and you'll just throw some on top. And I probably should have got a little bigger of a pan, because now as we push them down, they keep expanding in size. So remember that original size we had here is now going to be, whoo, see? Now you've really created a meal where people say, oh wow, that's a nice big piece of meat. And really, it's the same as two small pieces, or it's so simple to make. And it's kind of like being an illusionist. Like I'm a real David Copperfield. Thank you, Lori, I appreciate that. Got some people laughing. I'm a real David Blaine. Where's the chicken? Where's the pork? It's gone up, there it is, huh? Nobody saw that. It's not magic, it's an illusion. All of a sudden I've become an illusionist. Oh, my daughters are gonna be mortified if they ever watch this. Okay, I'll pull out the last one. I lift that up. Remember, let it drip out, let it drain off a bit. If you don't do that, your mixture here is going to get really wet really quickly. You want to be able, especially when you're making a lot of these, you want to be able to go through them really quick and not have to keep changing out your coating here. If it gets really wet, it doesn't stick as well to the meat, and you just end up with big globby messes of this. So we want to keep it as dry as possible. That's why we drain off. And see how my hands really quickly get coated with this. We'll do one more. I'm going to do one that we don't stick in the flour and egg mixture. We'll just dump it into the coating and see how that works for us. All right, as we always say, how'd that work for you? Okay, Nice. All right, and I've got my pan nice and warm. I was warming it up there. You didn't even know that. Secretly warming things up. Okay, I pull that out. Remember, we're not gonna do all the coating. We're just gonna see why it doesn't work, okay? So I pull this out of there and you look at it, you can already tell it's a completely different product. Doesn't have as much coating on it. It just doesn't look right. I would look at that and I would be aghast. I'd say, what's going on here? Okay, so now we have our pan. Our pan's nice and warm. I'm gonna add some oil. You want oil to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. Also really important, always try and use a really flat bottom pan. I know that like in our homes, at my house, all my pans have kind of gone this way over the years. So if you have a nice flat bottom pan, this works the best. If you don't, it's gonna tilt. There's not gonna be oil over the bottom of the whole pan, so you're gonna end up with some portions of the pork's gonna burn, some's gonna cook perfectly. So you just wanna use your best pan, all right? If you don't have a good pan like this, you could use like a Dutch oven, like a Le Creuset pan. They really stay flat and the bottoms are really nice. So you could use something like that. You don't have to use just a frying pan, okay? So we've got our the ones that we've done the triple dip on. We're gonna cook those first, then we'll cook the other one. That's not gonna work anyways. It's kind of like the runt of the litter. So if you do a lot of these in your restaurant or at home, you can save this, but you want to keep this in the refrigerator because we've had meat in there, we have protein in there, and if you use it on a daily basis, if you use it once a month, don't save it, throw it out, start with new. But if you're using it all the time, you can reuse it. Something you can do, if it started to get a little clumpy, you can sift it, get all those clumps out, and you're good to go, okay? But don't keep it for a really long time. Keep it for a really short time. All right? So these are cooking really nice. You can hear them. Everybody listen. Oh, that sounds so good. I love the sound of frying schnitzel in the morning. Anybody? Apocalypse Now with some adaptations to it. All right. Smells like victory. That's what it is. I love the smell of napalm in this morning. It smells like victory. No one ever says the whole thing. They just go with, I love the smell of blah, blah, blah in the morning. You gotta throw it smells like victory in there. Go to Netflix, check it out. Great movie. All right, so we're gonna do a sauce to go on top. So I'm gonna do some, a little bit of sour. Well, look at that, golden brown right there, huh? Look at that. If you were a hunter and you came home with that, your family would say, oh, Dad, you did such a good job. You hunted pork schnitzel. Perfect. Those look so good. And so the sauce is going to go on top. It's going to be great. It's going to just a little bit of flavor to it at the end. We're not going to go too crazy. We're going to let the schnitzel speak for itself. So I'm going to do a little bit of chicken stock, or I'm going to use some vegetable stock because this vegetable stock I use I think is superb, and so we'll just use a little of this to finish off this delicious schnitzel. Okay, so that's going to heat up real quick, and to that we're going to add some sour cream and some dill, a little bit of dry dill. If you have fresh dill, use that. You could add some salt and pepper to this. We'll add some salt and pepper once we've made the sauce to see if it really, we'll check it and see if it needs the flavoring. And I'm sure it will. So we've got our sour cream and dill ready. Our schnitzels are ready. But the one thing we can do, just to test them out, we'll pull this one off. We'll take my knife and we'll just do a little cut in there, okay? Then you can look at it like that. You can see that it's cooked all the way through. You don't want to do that to everyone. If it goes out to a customer and they see that, they think, oh, the chef can't tell if it's ready or not. Another way you can tell, you just touch it with your finger. If it feels really solid, that you're ready to go. It's solid. It's the same if you're cooking a steak. We can tell basically the temperature of a cooked steak just by touching it. And that's something we learn over the years. It's not we're not born with that ability. Okay, we're gonna try this one. We'll throw it in there. We'll see how that works for us. And then we'll finish the sauce off. Okay, so these are gonna be beautiful. We're gonna do one. So this is something we would serve with with some boiled potatoes. Our sauerkraut will really go as a nice side to this. We could also do, we're gonna make this week, we're gonna make some Schnitzel, which is like a pasta dish, but it's cooked different, completely different. We make it like a runny, almost batter, and then we put it into water and it boils. It's a German specialty. It's so good. We would usually serve with like a side of lime or lemon with this. Okay, so it would really give a great look to it. Often when I'm serving a lemon with a dish, I'll do a half of a lemon. I'll grill it a little bit. What that does, grilling a lemon will really release the juices. So when you squeeze it, all the juices come out. You know, here we often get some lemons and limes that don't really have like a lot of juice to them, and so sometimes if they're kind of hard, we stick them on a grill, and that really helps to make them juicy. So you see, we're going to compare one next to the other. This one's not done cooking, but I was tired of working with it. Okay, you can see it's not completely covered like the other one is. There's not. Your top camera's not on. Oh. We can't see it. Uh-oh. Well, here, I'll tilt it down. Thank you. So what we have here, so they end up being completely different. This one's really nicely covered. And this one here, you're missing a lot of pieces there. It just doesn't look complete. So doing the schnitzel the way that I've been showing you, that's really what we want to do. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're going to do what we call deglazing the pan. And what I do, deglazing the pan means we're going to add some liquid to this. And since I did that last piece, we kind of got a bunch of black, like carbony things in there. So usually we wouldn't have to do this. But okay, now we have our pan. It's nice and hot. We add some liquid to it. And we get that nice, really nice steam coming out of there. And it cooks down. It reduces really quickly. It cooks out extra amounts of liquid. And now we're just going to add our sour cream to that. And we just cook. And it won't take long at all right now. We don't want to cook it too long. We don't want that sour cream to break down. But now the reason we put that stock in there, it makes it a lot thinner. It makes a sauce that we can pour over the top of the dish instead of like lumping it on there. All right, so we get a nice stir, make sure it's all stirred in there. German cooking, they use a lot of dill. That was something they always had available to them. Okay, I'm going to take a taste of it. Yummy. Ooh. All right, so that's going to cook down a little bit more. I maybe put a little bit too much of the stock in there, which is okay. That means we need to reduce it. Reducing means we're cooking out some of the liquid, so it will be a little thinner. It will be a thicker dish to put on there. At this point, if we say, oh, that's going to take too much time, then we reach over here. And what did we make the other day that we always have around? Our roux. Remember, I say make some roux, have some roux always ready. You just throw a tiny bit in there. What does that do? Anybody know what the roux is going to do to this sauce? Come on, everybody at once. Thickens it up. There you go. Exactly, it helps to thicken it up. We could also use cornstarch, which would thicken it up. But this roux, having that butter and flour, that's going to add some flavor to this. Make sure that if the roux's been sitting out, that it hasn't clumped up. If it's clumpy, you got to make sure that you work those clumps out of the sauce. Okay? Now we have a nice, beautiful looking sauce. We're just going to do a little bit over the top. All right, and right now a piece of lemon, a little slice of lemon would look so good on there. Fortunately, I didn't have any. And we'll sprinkle a little bit of this green across the way. Remember, keep it off the edges. We're not in the 1980s anymore, are we? Okay, so we'd serve this like this. We could do some side dishes with it. They love asparagus in Germany. A good couple slices of asparagus. Do a little bit of cheese and melt it on top. Thousands of ways you can work with it. Be really creative. I know somebody would be really happy if this showed up in a little side dish of a vegetable or something. They'd be very happy. So that's it. Bon appetit, gutes Essen. That's German for good eating, or I hope. And I hope I didn't swear in German. Heck, I should have checked that. I should have Googled that one first. Okay, so that's it. We're going to make sure you remember. Oh, I forgot what I'm supposed to say. Get in the kitchen, sharpen your knives, keep the emails coming, or call me even. Call me, text me, write me on an email, lasso me. I'm getting all kinds of signals from over there. I did get a call yesterday. It was from a debt collector, so we won't even talk about that. And just get in the kitchen and have fun, because it is so much fun to cook. I love it. I could do it every day. Hey, I do it every day.